Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're obviously here on the eve of what is going to be a sad day, what's going to be a solemn day. And when we say that, we actually really mean it. We've heard the Democrats again and again and again talk about how heartbroken they are that they're going down this path. But their actions demonstrate that for them, those are just empty words. The Democrats have been gleefully proclaiming their desire to impeach this president since he was elected. We've now just seen this afternoon video of Congressman Raskin at a rally before the president was even sworn into office, talking about how he plans to vote, or he may well be voting to impeach this president. What we know is that they've been operating in a way that they have been conducting themselves in secret. They've abused the rules. They've abused their power. They've denied due process. They've disregarded the facts, the evidence, instructed witnesses not to answer Republican questions, used focus groups to decide what crime they should accuse the president of. And yet, despite all of these abuses, the Democrats have failed to prove their case. But they are continuing to proceed forward in what is a very partisan and reckless matter. Indeed, you heard a liberal constitutional law professor testify. This is not just a woefully inadequate basis for impeachment. In some respects, it is dangerous. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that you can impeach a president without direct evidence. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that you can assume impeachable conduct. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say if you are angry at the president, or if you are angry at the opposing party, or you disagree with his policies, or you are afraid you can't beat him in the next election, that you can just assume impeachable conduct. Yet that's what the Democrats are doing. Tomorrow, they're going to bring articles of impeachment to the floor, articles of impeachment that have the potential to do grave damage to the Republic, to this House as an institution, to the Constitution, and to the voters all across this country who believe rightly that the decision about who sits in the White House should be theirs, not Nancy Pelosi's, not Adam Schiff's, certainly who do not agree with and do not believe in the kind of partisan process we're going to see tomorrow. We in the House Republican Conference are going to remain united. We're going to continue to stand up for the Constitution. We're going to continue to stand up for the rule of law. And we are going to look forward to the day when we are back in the majority. And we certainly are not going to commit the kind of offenses to the Constitution and abuse of power that the Democrats have been engaged in now ever since they took over. With that, I will turn things over to our whip, Mr. Scalise.
Thank you, Liz. Tomorrow's impeachment vote will be a stain on Nancy Pelosi's legacy as Speaker. From the very beginning, you could see that this was more about settling a political score, a personal vendetta against President Trump, where the most radical elements of Speaker Pelosi's base called for impeachment before he even took the oath of office. And so instead of searching for facts, which, by the way, tomorrow will mark the first time in our country's history where a president was impeached on a party line vote. Never before has that been done. In fact, the only bipartisan vote tomorrow will be against impeachment. And so instead of starting with a crime, which is what the case was with Andrew Johnson's impeachment, with Richard Nixon's impeachment, and with Bill Clinton's impeachment, they all started with a specific crime and then ultimately went through their inquiries and moved to impeachment. That's never been the case here. There was never a crime. It was an impeachment in search of a crime, meandering around as a witch hunt trying to find something wrong, starting with the Mueller investigation. They kept promising, and you remember Schiff's statements. He promised that he had more than circumstantial evidence that there was collusion with the president and Russia. And then the Mueller report comes out, and in fact, there was no collusion. And instead of just ending it there, they kept going on. And then there was a whistleblower report, and we heard all the salacious allegations against the president. And none of those turned out to be the case. In fact, every single witness that came before the committees of jurisdiction, when they were asked point blank, under oath to witnesses, can you name an impeachable offense? Not one. Can you name any bribery? Not one. And again, at that point, you would have thought maybe cooler minds would prevail and they would move on to actually working to solve the problems that people across this country face. When there was a unanimous bill that came out of committee to lower drug prices, literally a layup waiting to be sent to the president's desk, where every Republican and every Democrat on the Committee of Jurisdiction voted to lower drug prices and to bring generics to market quicker so that families could be paying less today for their drugs at home, which is a major problem. They wouldn't bring that bill to the floor because they were so fixated with impeachment. And so this obsession continued, and it's going to play itself out tomorrow. And it's going to be a sad day. But again, when you look throughout history, when they focused on the facts, those were the times that they produced bipartisan votes. The facts here have strongly supported the president. The Zelensky call, you asked Zelensky, and he said he appreciated the phone call. He actually got Javelin missiles that he was able to buy that President Trump sold him to stand up to Russia, that President Obama and Joe Biden wouldn't sell. You know, why wouldn't President Obama and Joe Biden sell missiles to Ukraine so they could stand up to Russia and Putin? I don't know. It's a good question that they should be asked. But President Trump did. In his first year, he sold those Javelin missiles. There was no exchange of any quid pro quo. There was no investigation. He did it because it was the right thing to do, and he was stood by an ally. And President Zelensky thanked him for that. In fact, when asked, President Zelensky said there was no pressure on the phone call. He got the aid, and ultimately there was no investigation, and yet they still march on. Not because they found any facts or evidence, but because they've been wanting to score a political and personal vendetta against the president that started well before the phone call. Before the phone call, over 100 Democrats voted to impeach this president. Before the phone call. In fact, there was one article of impeachment that we forced a vote on, that they were trying to impeach the president because he criticized NFL players for kneeling during the Pledge of Allegiance. Over 50 Democrats voted to impeach the president of the United States for that. Now, do people across the country think that meets the constitutional standard of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors? Of course not. Doesn't pass the smell test, but it shows that this has been a personal vendetta against the president, not a fact-finding mission in search of an impeachable offense, because there was no impeachable offense. So we're going to continue doing our work. We're going to work hard to pass USMCA so we can have a better trade deal with our friends Canada and Mexico, and then work to get better deals with other countries around the world, and then focus our efforts on holding China accountable. And I'm glad that President Trump continues to work for the American people, the families that he fought for, the forgotten men and women of this country that had been left behind. President Trump is still fighting for them, even while Pelosi is wasting her majority on trying to score personal vendetta points. With that, now I yield to our Republican leader, Kevin McCarthy.
Thank you, Steve. In less than 24 hours, House Democrats will officially push through the weakest, thinnest, and fastest impeachment in American history. Their entire majority, the legacy of the 116th Congress, will be defined by their hatred for President Trump and their deep-rooted desire to oust him from office. What we found with the Speaker just a week ago, she finally admitted she'd been trying to impeach him for nearly 3 years. We watched today with Congressman Raskin, who today presented the Democrats' case at the hearing. He is on records 2 days before the inaugural, and he said, "I want to say this about Donald Trump, who I may very well be voting to impeach over the next year or two." Or from the committee that impeachment moved through, Chairman Nadler. New York Times writes that Chairman Nadler campaigned to his Democrat colleagues to win the chairmanship based upon he would be the best to impeach. Or to the freshman Democrats who gave the Democrats their majority, Congresswoman Tlaib, who on the night of swearing in, a few hours after she raised her hand to uphold the Constitution, she said she was going to impeach the mother. This will be their legacy, but it will not be a legacy that we want to have repeated. Alexander Hamilton warned us of this day. Unfortunately, this day has come, where individuals purely for political reasons, with no facts, move forward with impeachment. Why we see this today, we also hear from a FISA judge questioning the FBI to prove what they have used the FISA courts for. And to think they turned the Intel Committee over to an impeachment committee. And you have Adam Schiff as a chairman who defended FISA and lied again to the American public. We know what this outcome will be. Speaker Pelosi promised they would be different. She said she'd have an agenda for the people that she put aside to show her real agenda for the last 3 years of impeaching the president. I truly believe, regardless, you're supposed to represent the people, not your hatred. We can do so much better. Questions? Yes, sir.
How hard did you have to whip your members to be united in opposition?
Not hard at all. Yes.
Congressman Van Drew announced over the weekend, reportedly announced over the weekend, switching to the Republican Party. What's your reaction to his decision to switch sides, and have you talked to other Republicans in Jersey to try to clear the decks for him to run as a Republican in 2020?
I think Congressman Van Drew will make a public announcement sometime soon, whatever he decides to do. But I don't blame Congressman Van Drew for being disappointed in the Democrats. American public is disappointed in the Democrats. They said they would be different. There will be other Democrats, I imagine, across this country that become disappointed in them as well. That they took them at their word that they would govern in a different manner, that they would seek bipartisanship. But the idea of the punishment that they would provide to him because he had his own voice. You know, Speaker Pelosi said back in March that impeachment is so divisive to a nation. It has to be overwhelming, compelling, and bipartisan to move forward. The only bipartisan vote was not. Those were the 3 requirements she laid out, and she did not meet one of them. We welcome Congressman Van Drew. We welcome any Democrat that sees this new Democrat Socialist Party that has left them behind. They're welcome to join the Republican Party. Yes.
Do you expect other Democrats to jump ship? Have you spoken with other Democrats about the possibility of...
One thing I would like to put, there has been people in the past that have moved from one party to another. But I have a hard time finding anyone who moves from the majority party to the minority party. That should be an eye-opener for the Democrats. Should be an eye-opener for the Democrats when Speaker Pelosi promised her members that when they moved through with impeachment that it would be more popular when they finally got to the floor, which it is not. She thought once they saw the American public, the reason why they could not have a due process because they needed to control it all so they could sell it to the American public, well, the American public has actually dropped further on impeachment. So think about the beginning of this. Had Speaker Pelosi waited 48 hours, we'd never go through this nightmare. Her conference will be smaller, the support will be less, and her legacy will be an embarrassment. Yes.
Can you guarantee that Republicans will remain united tomorrow?
Have you not seen us united? Have you not witnessed us united? The reason why I know we'll stay united is because the facts are on our side. The reason why I know the process has been failed, they picked a timeline and they stuck to their timeline without having any facts for it. If you stick to Speaker Pelosi's requirements, she will have failed on all 3. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Are the Republicans going to be as united when they vote on the implementing legislation for USMCA?
I think we'll have a very strong Republican vote.
Everybody, or?
No. Well, you can talk to the whip about that. I think we'll have a very strong vote for that.
Last question.
Yes.
I was going to ask, Justin Amash left the Republican Party earlier this year.
Mhm.
Now we have Van Drew leaving the Democratic Party. Does that speak to the fact that there's not room for dissension really in either party? Are we just in an era where politics is so polarized that you can't fuck your own party without having to leave it?
I don't think Justin Amash rises to that.
I think it's on a different level.
Much more on a different level, yes. Look, the Republican Party is a very open party. Ronald Reagan was a Democrat before he became a Republican. Many times, if you look at the Democratic Party today, it's not the Democratic Party of old. Even the new freshman members don't call themselves Democrat. They call themselves Socialist Democrats. So I don't blame Democrats who feel they're leaving the party because the party left them. So yes, there could be others who join with us, because I know there'll be more who join with us in the election, just as others joined with voting for President Trump. And I think if they continue to govern this way by not solving one problem, by putting their own personal beliefs ahead of their own districts, by not keeping their promises, I think they'll have a hard time keeping people in their party. Thank you.